I'll offer an invocation at this time. Immediately after I finish, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, then we'll begin our meeting. If you'd like to bow your head. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to come here together to go about the business of our city. We ask a special blessing tonight upon Councilman Smith, who is not able to be here with us. He will be undergoing some medical procedures. And we just ask you to be with his wife and his family during this time. Pray for the doctors that will be going through this operation which he will be having, and just ask that they would rely on the skills that they have been taught and learned. But we'd also ask that we would look to you for guidance and assistance during that process. We ask, Father, that as we go about this business tonight, that each thing that is said and done would be so that the citizens of our community would feel that we're doing our best to make things better for them here in this community. So we just ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is to adopt the business agenda. We need a motion to do that if someone's ready to do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the business agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as it is presented by Councilman Steinbach. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any more discussion on this matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The agenda will be approved as it is presented. Next, I'd like to call on our Public Works Director, Mr. Chalker, for a special recognition. Good evening, Mr. Chalker.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, visitors. If I could get someone with us tonight to join me up here, Walter, would you come forward for me? So we are here to recognize Walter Johnson for over 31 years of very faithful and successful service with the city of Roanoke Rapids. Walter was originally hired August the 31st, 1992. He transferred from planning to our department on September the 26th, 2011, and he retired 11/30 of 2023, so over 31 years. And Walter held several jobs here, but I'll tell you what, he really performed the best job with us. He always, any task, Doug and I were talking earlier, any task that we would give this fella to do, we never had to check behind him. He was always very thorough, and I can tell you right now, we miss him every day. And Walter, I just want to congratulate you for those years of your service and present you with this plaque from the city. Let's turn it.
Mr. Johnson, anything you'd like to say to us at this time?
Well, just thank you. Like I said, city's been good to me. I mean, 31 years, but all of y'all been good to me.
Well, we appreciate your service to our community and hope you have a long and prosperous and just a good retirement.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nobody under public comment tonight? Okay. You can just come right on to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here about guess what? The abandoned building. I did some research, and I'm going to try to be as politically correct as I can. But I did look up the LLC and who the owner or agent is that's owner/member. And there is only that property in that LLC. However, the same person has another LLC with like 31 properties in it. Yes, maybe they only have $400 in that LLC, is because that's all they put in it. I also looked into when it was acquired, and it was acquired for $0. It was a gift to them. And I guess, well, I have many thoughts, but the person who owns it is an upstanding member, well-known member of the community, does not have real limited resources. On the contrary, apparently they have quite comfortable resources. Taxes on that building have not been paid this year yet. Prior year taxes are still due, over $1,000 as I recall. And what I'm wondering is if these citizens of our community are comfortable letting every other taxpayer pay their bills for their property that they were given. If the city does this, which we got to do something because it's a hazard, does the city then at least get the title of the property after it's done? I mean, that's not going to be worth jack compared to what it's going to cost, but when I saw that, it was very disconcerting to me that someone would totally advocate any of their financial responsibility, but ready to take any property for free if you give it to me. Anyway, that's my question. Do we get any relief? And shame on them.
As a general rule, you know, because you have spoken before, we don't generally have a conversation about this. If I could just yield to the city manager or the city attorney, if they might, not at this time unless they feel so led, were you at the last meeting? Okay, I mean, you know, we had some discussion about it at the last meeting, but if there's a need to go ahead and stay.
I think we'll probably cover it when we get to the new business.
Okay, maybe you'll get some answers to questions then. Okay, thank you for your comments. We have two sessions of minutes, February 6th, February 7th, regular meeting and the retreat meeting. We can handle both of them in one motion when somebody's ready to make the motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the February 6, 2024 regular city council meeting and February 7th, 2024 special meeting retreat minutes as drafted.
All right, motion on the floor by Councilwoman Bryant and second by Councilman Bell. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motions would be approved. Under new business, I would call on Housing Officer Bell to come forward for unsafe building order.
Last time I was here can anybody hear me this time? All right. Thanks to everybody for making me look after that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I've got basically the same thing I did last time. I have a few new pictures for you to see of the building, and then a couple of highlights to go over on the timeline, and then we'll leave it to y'all to take a look. That is the new picture, one of the new pictures right there, 201, 203 Roanoke Avenue. The main window there facing the avenue is falling apart, and there's a big crack down there underneath the window from the pressure of the building on top. The last time I was here, we talked about that pilaster that circled. The one next to it is the empty space where that's fallen into the building. And there, the aerial. This is the interior where the upper floor has fallen into the lower floor is the picture on the left. And then again, another look at the facade of the building showing the crack at the bottom, which I already talked about. But if you look at also at the top, you'll see there's a row of glass above the doorway. Those little pieces are falling in also from the pressure of the building. That's a closer look at what I was just talking about on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, that's bricking that's falling in. Also, there's a hole, obviously, where the buildings are separated. That's the rear of the structure. You have to actually go looking for that, but it's loose bricks in the back. And then the one on the right-hand side is the separation between that building and the building that's adjacent to it, which I think is 205, 207. And then, obviously, there's added paperwork since the last meeting to the front of the building. That's the picture you're seeing there. And so we're looking to adopt an ordinance, 2024-05, demolition order directing code enforcement to demolish and remove the building at 201, 203 Roanoke Avenue as unfit for use and lawful occupation, recorded with the memorandum of understanding, which I believe Mr. Davis is going to discuss with you, between us and the corporate entity that owns that structure. I also wanted to just call to your attention a couple of items on the timeline. Obviously, we had the meeting about this, and then on the 14th, we actually got the return slip from certified mail indicating that the corporate entity was notified of this hearing. So we got that done, and then on the 15th, we received the memorandum of understanding that Mr. Davis is going to discuss. Does anybody have any questions? So I guess this is actually, was supposed to be a hearing today for this, so I guess we have to open the hearing and close the hearing and all that, right? So does the... Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Just, we need to have we need to open a hearing on this matter, since it is something that the entity that owns it got notice and would have an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, don't say that down here on the bottom. Okay. Open the public hearing at this time. The reason I'm asking you those questions, it's just a little bit different in my packet this time, so I wasn't exactly sure. Is it proper at this time to ask if individuals would like to make comments on it?
The hearing is intended for anyone who has any direct interest in the property, any ownership.
From the audience? Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this time, I declare that the public hearing be open. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forward, make any comments on this issue, do so at this time. Well, I guess you probably need to come up here, tell us who you are and where you live. I just want to make you walk up here.
I'm Diane Norton. It don't go low enough. That it? That's good? All right, I'm Diane Norton. I'm retired from the city. I just wanted to ask you a question. If you take down building 201 and 203, the building next to it, is that going to affect their foundation or their outside wall?
Ms. Chalker, would you like to speak on that?
I can address that as well.
Okay, Ms. City Manager said she would.
Okay, let me put this back up. Thank you.
Again, adoption of the order gives us the authority to move forward in doing a complete examination of what it will take. At this point, we don't know if there's any existing damage to the adjacent property, but we do not, obviously, if the city moves forward with a contractor to help remediate this danger, we certainly do not want to cause any additional damage. And so right now, the order that is presented before you tonight, the ordinance 2024.05, allows us to move forward in a full examination and developing a plan and examining the other resources that would contribute to the removal of the unsafe conditions of the property.
It may very well be that the state of the subject piece of property that we're talking about now may have some effect on the adjacent property, but regardless of whether the city lets it stand there until it falls down, or whether we do go forward with the ordinance and do end up going in and trying to remediate it, the fact that it's been allowed to deteriorate the subject property and may have caused some damage to that, just because the city goes in to try to remediate that is not going to make us liable for the damage that has already occurred. And it's something that we have had some discussions about kind of in the initial stages of this, of that if there is an effort to go in and demolish and take down, to make sure that we document, as it's revealed, any damage to the other structure, and to discuss with the impacted landowners that to make sure that there's no question that that's not our damage that we've caused, if that makes sense. And so that is a concern, but it's something that we won't know until it's done. But it's certainly not going to be a good situation if it falls down, kind of catastrophically or whatever happens to it. So.
And I will add too that what hasn't been mentioned yet, any sort of lien that would go against the property, we have to follow the North Carolina general statutes as far as how we can lawfully try to place a lien against other properties owned. So if CR 1017 only owns one property in town, then that's the only property we can attach lawfully any lien to, and then go from there. But again, we are going to have to look at this very carefully. This is going to take, I think I mentioned an orchestra at the last meeting, that this isn't your typical pushing down a shed or something like that. This is a very large building and a very busy intersection, and this ordinance will give us the authority to move forward to understanding the costs. We do not have the cost budgeted right now to do that, and so at a future city council meeting, we would have to come back with a bid after we bid out the process as far as what it would take, and ask council for the money. So this is just one step in the procedural outline for accomplishing this to remediate the threat.
And so I'm going to kind of highlight some of what she just said with respect to this doesn't if council approves this order today, it does not obligate city employees to go in and start tearing this down. What it does do, it is the first step of saying, all right, there's an order of abatement on it now. Council has acted, and so, and I think we discussed last time that because this is a state-maintained highway, we have DOT that's implicated in it. Because there is potential asbestos contamination there, we have the experts that are involved with that would need to be involved. So there's going to be several folks that have to kind of get involved and kind of look at this as this process works out to get it taken down. And this is the step that the city needs to take to kind of make it so that we can start having those conversations with an eye towards, in the future, remediating it and abating it. And so with that in mind, I think Mr. Bell referenced the landowner was notified of this, the LLC, through their attorney. And so what I did is I prepared a memorandum of understanding that they have entered into. And I know that that this is in your packets, and that I have that I think I sent an email about it last week. But essentially what that memorandum of understanding does is it just outlines what we have already said the law is. So it's not us granting any new thing to them that we haven't already granted, but in exchange for putting all that in writing, what they did consent to do was waive any objection to notice issues or any other things that could come up that could potentially delay this process from the city's end. And that was the real goal with that, because one of my concerns was that without that, and we've had these situations before, and thinking back, the last one that I can remember was the property that was there at maybe 13th and Roanoke Avenue over by the Union Mission. In that case, as we kind of set up and started this process, the landowner came in and essentially signed a release saying that, they agreed that it was in a derelict condition. They're not contesting that, and they're not contesting that they got notice. Because if we don't have that, we probably still get to the same place one way or the other, but it could delay it by several months. Or, the landowner could throw up some hurdles for us to jump past. By having that in writing and by having that consent, we kind of move past all that. And go ahead and get them to agree that yes, it is unfit, that it needs to be taken down. And so that's kind of what we were talking about with that. But as far as nobody from the subject entity being here today, they've agreed in writing at this point. They did last week on February 15th that the building is in such a dilapidated state of disrepair and substandard condition that it's dangerous to life, health, and other property, and that it's in violation of our city ordinances. And they acknowledge that if the city does have to go in and demolish it, that we will get we'll put a lien against the property for the value of the cost to the city for that. And then also, they waive any objection that they would have with respect to notice or procedural requirements. So we don't have to worry that we're going to start down this road and then at some point, and I can envision many, many different scenarios that would motivate the landowner to do this, but may decide that, well, maybe I do want to contest this thing. Or maybe I do want to try to slow down the process, or try to say, well, I'm going to go get my own person to go in and try to abate it. And then, we get into the process, well, I'm getting my contractor out there, and they're going to give me an update on cost, and then it drags out another 2 months, it drags out another 6 months. This goes ahead and covers all that. So, and does nothing to, as I said, it does nothing to place any new obligation onto the city that wasn't already there, and it does nothing to alter or reduce their liability under law with respect to liens that may be placed on the property. But as we discussed before, I think Ms. Tranum covered it. The law only allows us to go after the landowner, and the landowner in this case is the LLC that owns it. And if they don't have any other properties, there's nothing else that we can by law touch. We can't go after the shareholders. We can't go after other corporations that the shareholders may share or that may be partners in. That's just the way that it works. And unless the legislature in Raleigh were to say, well, in this case of whatever we want to call it, derelict or dilapidated buildings, we're going to create some kind of structure for shareholder liability that would expose them. Without that, and I don't believe that they would ever do that, but without that, I don't see where. Well, I can tell you that the liability is going to be limited to the landowner, which is the LLC, and this single property that they own.
Anybody else have any questions of city attorney? So after you get the estimate on remediating, I believe is the term you use, we would have to have a budget ordinance at that time if we were going to actually spend money to do it. Okay, everybody understand what we're doing tonight? We're just asking, or she's just asking for a motion to allow them to move forward to the next process and get some more information.
Basically, in order to declare that it is that it needs to be demolished and removed.
And the only other thing I was going to ask, if we get to that point and we provide the funds to do it with, do you think that we would actually have some kind of detailed conversation, and whereas we would actually look inside of the building next door, or we just wait and see what happened when it came down, just as far as any, like she was asking about? Is that something you can't really answer right now?
If anybody else has comments, and I realize I don't have much, I certainly don't have any experience in the demolition business, but my thought is that the folks that are going to be doing this are going to have some experience in that, and to be sure, this will not be the first time that they have had a structure such as this that is in this dilapidated state that has to be taken down adjacent to a building which, as far as we know, I haven't heard anything to say that it's not, is intact and not not a nuisance. So.
Okay. Okay, you have in your packet that we do need a motion to move forward with this. Need to close the public hearing first. I declare that the public hearing be closed at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, please, to adopt ordinance number 2024.05, a demolition order, directing code enforcement to demolish and remove the building at 201-203 Roanoke Avenue as unfit for use and lawful occupation, recorded with the memorandum of understanding agreement between CR 1017 LLC and the city of Roanoke Rapids.
All right, motion by Mr. Steinbach,
Second.
second by Mr. Strickland. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Thank you. Mr. Chalker for another amendment on budget.
Good evening again. We come to you for your consideration of a budget amendment for our government building account. So in your packet, it may say City Hall repairs in parentheses. That is included in this particular line item, but we also use this amount or this line item for more than just the City Hall building. So any government building that we maintain that doesn't have its own building maintenance budget would come out of this account. And to give you a little fodder on this, due to unforeseen repairs at the Newtown Resource Center, specifically in the Boys and Girls Club space, several plumbing issues at City Hall, and an office reconfiguration in our police department, and a few other miscellaneous items, the building budget for City Hall or the government building account has been depleted. We are requesting additional funds of $15,000 to carry us over for the rest of the year. And there is an attached ordinance number 2024.06 that would take $15,000 from the general fund and move it into this specific account number. And I can answer any further questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Chalk? Finance Director, would it be safe to say that the way the interest income is coming in right now, that we would probably make above what we had estimated in the budget for this year, probably more than that 15,000, so it wouldn't be a negative for us? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, all right. If nobody else has any questions, we need a motion for the 15,000.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2024.06 in the amount of $15,000 to increase the City Hall budget for fiscal year 2023-24.
All right. Budget by Mr. Steinbach and a second by Mr. Bell. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Thank you, Mr. Chalker. And Ms. Trainum for your report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Last week I had a visit from Dominion Energy's government liaison representative and was informed that starting in March, residents will begin receiving postcards that are announcing their new meter upgrade program. They're converting to smart meters, and so they have contracted out the work, and obviously there are thousands of meters across the city, and when you start doing this type of work and a contractor showing up at the house, if the meter, most of the time the meters are outside and accessible, so the residents don't have to be home for it. But it is something that you will receive notice at least 10 days ahead of time before that takes place. And if the homeowner's not home, they'll leave a door tag on there. The meters, they're converting to the smart meters that will have some automated functions. So if like the power goes out or something like that, it'll automatically send notification to Dominion Energy and improve their operations and services as well. We do like to share this. We committed to sharing this information with our community as well, since the city does not own our own utilities. And if there are any issues, please will direct them to Dominion as well. But we expect it to be a pretty smooth transition without much interference. They're not cutting up the grounds or the right-of-ways and things like that. Last Tuesday, February the 13th, I'm not superstitious, but if it had been Friday the 13th, I probably would have become superstitious. But I just want to acknowledge that we had some pretty eventful activities taking place, or incidences that occurred in the city, between trees falling and limbs and street light got damaged down here, pole, and then unfortunate incident with CSX and so forth. And then again into the evening, there were some other power lines taken down, and that takes a lot of our resources from one thing to another. Our first responders, police and fire obviously were called out in many cases, and then our public works department responds as well in many events to help keep the roads safe from travelers. And so it was a big day. The weather was bad, and an unfortunate event occurred, but our staff went above and beyond to really try to make the best of the situation. And we received a lot of compliments from the community members and from the visitors in town that were here on behalf of CSX about the city being a welcoming place, how people have been very helpful. And so I just wanted to share that with you, take a little pride in that. We've had many complaints, and I know you all have too, about the litter and trash and things like that. This time of year, it typically becomes a lot more often. The Christmas decorations come down, and then we see everything else underneath when the leaves are off the trees. But the city has a responsibility in the right-of-ways and for our properties. There is an abatement process for private properties through that. And then what I will say is that I've received notice today that the Boy Scout group has committed to helping clean up some of the property in the area of Julian Allsbrook and Old Farm Road near Lowe's Drive, some of those areas of concern that have been very obvious here lately. So it is going to take community groups and private citizens to help clean up this problem. The litter is going to keep coming. We all generate trash every day. And the city can't be the sole person or entity responsible for it. And so just want to give you an update on that. Our police department is conducting a first of probably some additional surveys for the public. They're anonymous surveys to gauge or to gain a baseline gauge of citizens' perceptions of safety in the community. Last week, 4 of our members of the fire department went to Florida to inspect the new fire truck, one of 2 of them, and were able to successfully do that. There's a few things that do need to be completed as part of that inspection, and then once those are completed, the truck will be on its way to Rocky Mount. And last but not least, the city basketball the city adult basketball league is occurring, the Industrial League, and the City of Roanoke Rapids employees have a team as well, so they'll be playing on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. over the next month or so. And one other thing too is we met with representatives from the League of Municipalities today for risk management, and so we'll be bringing forward some recommendations to the City Council in the near future about some things to help reduce the city's general liability and other accident coverages and things like that. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
Ms. Bryant?
I know in the retreat we talked about a cleanup week, and I'm glad to know that a Boy Scout troop has stepped up to clean up the area that all of us have probably received complaints about. But have we come up with a date of a week that we may plan the citywide cleanup so that everybody can get involved?
We don't have a date picked out just yet, but we will have, staff and I need to sit down and discuss that. Unfortunately, last week was Tuesday and was a little bit chaotic and so forth, but we are looking and moving forward to do something like that, and any budgetary needs we'll bring forward to council.
All right, thank you for your report. Finance Director.
Good evening. General fund year-to-date receipts totaled $12,740,792.53. Expenditures was $10,485,686.53. So revenues have exceeded expenditures by $2,255,106. After the month of January, we'll be at 54.3% of our budget. The revenues received in January were current and prior year ad valorem, motor vehicle sales tax, hold harmless, residential, commercial, of course the interest revenue, which I'm very pleased about, and the grants and donation funds. So the month of January, we recognize a higher ad valorem collection due to taxpayers remitting their payments in December. So from this point forward, it should be critical to hold as much of our year-to-date earnings as possible.
Anybody have any questions, Finance Director? All right, thank you for a good report. Is there any other business that needs to come before us tonight? Before we adjourn, I too would like to echo what the city manager said. I'd like to thank all the city employees for responding to the the very unfortunate situation with the CSX employee. I've heard from around the community that they were very much impressed with the things that this community did to reach out to them and provide whatever comfort or services or just anything we could do when it's a difficult situation like that. I'd like to also recognize Councilman Strickland. He was there very near where the accident happened at, and I know he was out there and doing whatever he could to try to give them a place to kind of sit down and talk about the situation and offer them facilities that they might need and water and just doing whatever he could do, and I know they appreciate it very much. So thank you all for a situation that we had to go through that we hope we don't have to have again, but things like that happen, and it just shows the strength of a community when you can come together and show your feelings for others and help them to get through a difficult situation. At this time, we call for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilman Bell, second to his motion. Second by Mr. Steinbach. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you.